we focused quite a lot on participants, and we focused a lot on musicians. Of course, the work that orchestras are doing in health and social care settings is work that involves other professionals, clearly. The healthcare professionals and the caring staff in the room. And there's a whole other set of relationships there, isn't there? How do you train care staff? How do you involve them at the start of a project? How do you get that dialogue and interaction going so that everybody in the room is kind of involved in this work?
Actually, the last year has been a really interesting model for that, because of course we are ever more reliant on the enthusiastic participation of the care staff or the teaching staff, so on and so forth. I mean, we've all been in those situations where we've sent musicians into a school, for example, and they turn up to one class and you see not the 95% of the teachers, but the occasional teacher that looks at it and thinks, brilliant, free period, and just completely checks out. And that's and you sort of think, well, why are we here then? There is no point being here. That does not happen with the vast majority of teaching staff, who are all wonderful and saints. But yeah, the last year has been really very interesting. I mean, you do rely on those care staff, particularly in a lot of the settings we're in, which can be quite challenging. People often either are non-verbal because of something like dementia diagnosis, or because of a brain injury, or are elective mute, for example, in sort of psychiatric settings with young people, or in some of those settings as well. What a young person says is often not really what the underlying emotion and the underlying response. So you're reliant on those staff to sort of say, actually, this is what was happening, and almost do a sort of job of interpretation, if you like. So that's always been the case, and we've always tried to involve staff in that from that perspective. But over the last year, as we've moved all our projects onto an online basis, you are even more reliant on them, because of course they are the person going around with the tablet, putting it in front of someone, you know, setting things up in the room in the way that a lot of our musicians would go into a room and sort of really think about the space around them, and what instruments have I placed where, and how are people going to come in? How do I engage them right from the off? Are we playing as people come in, or do we wait till everyone's sat down? All of those things. It's the care staff that are doing that. And I think I mean, I've used the word reliance and relying on them, and we do. But if that's all we did, I don't think we'd stand a chance. When we went back to working in Jewish care homes, we needed to sort of pilot a lot of the work. And the Living Well team at Jewish Care said, well, why don't you pilot it on the staff? Because actually they could do with some creative intervention in their lives as well.
Right.
And that was just a wonderful thing to do, because the staff could then realize how this felt for them as individuals, how it benefited them. And that was a fantastic thing to do. In other situations, Sound Young Minds, I've been in those projects myself, not as often as I would like to be, because you simply can't have too many adults in the room. But if you are an adult in the room, and this includes teaching and clinical staff, you're joining in. Everybody is an equal in that situation. It doesn't matter that our principal clarinetist or principal oboist is there and they are absolutely the top of their game in terms of playing their instrument. Everybody's a creative equal, including idiot chief executives of orchestras, as well as the teaching assistant, as well as the head teacher of the school, as well as the consultant psychiatrist, as well as the nursing assistant. You know, it's a level playing field. And the benefit that I've felt that I've got out of those sessions is this is great fun, and I've really felt boosted, and I suddenly sort of why are my cheeks hurting? Because unusually for me, I'm smiling. You know, it's very basic things like that, but they all contribute to those care workers being participants and audience members as well as the participants.
Couldn't agree more. I've seen that happen so many times, and And indeed, I have experienced, but not as often as I'd like at the moment, exactly what you described.